our thing.
Oh, should I do it?
Yeah.
Oh, we're live.
We're live.
I'm totally behind on this.
We're behind, man. We were sitting here gasping and just going talking, and all of a sudden, wow, hey, it's time to go live. So, welcome everyone, and we're a little behind. And as soon as it pops up, we're going to play our little intro.
Wrong one. Dang it.
You know what?
This?
It's
Can
Wednesday.
you see it? Is it working?
There it is. We're going to add the stage, and here we go. That is an awesome one, man. Good job on that one. Bravo.
Oh, thanks.
I like that. That's a good job.
Well, now we're officially live.
And it's officially Wednesday night. I was thinking about this, and we can make this decision. I wasn't going to ask you this, but I'll put you on the spot and let's ask. Are you going to be next Wednesday? Do you want to do live next Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
Sure. I don't see why not. I mean, I got nobody's house to go to.
Me too. I don't have anyone coming over.
Nah.
We've invited a lot of people. No,
I'm gonna have a turkey sandwich.
We're not doing turkey this year.
Yeah, Oscar Miner's finest turkey sandwich.
Oh, we're not doing turkey this year. We're going to be doing. What are we doing? We're doing a pulled pork, and chicken, and then we're gonna honey bake some ham ourselves.
Oh, I love honey baked ham. That's killer stuff right there.
Oh man, and
my favorite always used to be like the mashed potatoes.
Oh yeah,
mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes, like. Oh.
And the wifey makes the best stuff. So yeah. So, alrighty, let's get into it. Twist and Mopar Garage, stand by for action. Man, he was early. 4:19 p.m. Man, he was
rare to go.
You win. There's me, Slant Daily Garage, saying, "What's up, suckers? Hello tonight from the FRMR Racing Stables. Good evening, everyone. Howdy, folks from North Carolina." Ooh, we got our very first question. We'll come back to that in just a second. We got Schmidt. We got Mr. Patrick. Tom Brown's in the house. 2 hacks. Turbo Tom, 416. Mostly all parts and rust. Colleen, D150. Tall Garage. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people come to sub to you. So you probably got a lot of subs today because we were talking about you today. Mostly all parts and rust. Again, Tom Brown, 2 hacks. Mostly old parts. And we got Lout, we got Colleen, mostly all parts again. Kevin, 2 hacks, Fab Mod Repeat. Moving on. And D, Muscle Car Solutions. We got Mr. Wilson in the house. Watanoni B, hi Shane and Dallas on greet here tonight. And Val O 360 Jimmy. Okay, so let's move on back here to
Where
the
was
question.
That question at?
Yeah, right
at the
here.
Beginning.
Ooh. All right. At Sign Daily Garage, question for the stream. Considering swapping an old Edelbrock 1406 for an old Holly 7855, basically a 650, spread bore. Engine is a 383 big block, good or bad idea? Okay. That I personally, if this is a street car for me, and I know I'm going to get tons of hate for this, I love an Edelbrock on the street because there's no gaskets to leak. That's just my opinion. A 1406, that's a 600 CFM, if I believe correctly. I think it is. I think it just leave it alone. I say let her eat. What's your opinion on this one?
He said spread bore. You know where I'm going.
I know. Yes, I already know. Yeah, that's why
there is only one king of the street carburetor that I know of, and it's Quadrajet. And I'm sure everybody's going to hate me even more than Shane's Edelbrock 1406 idea. But you can't beat a freaking 800 CFM Quadrajet, and you can't. And the cool thing is that 383 won That 383 needs somewhere closer to 800 CFM to be happy. 750 would be much happier on there. Both of those carburetors, in my opinion, if you're talking just the street, it's probably fine, right? Because it's going to have a good vacuum signal. It's going to deliver fuel. Yep. You can actually build a really good fuel curve out of either one of those carburetors that's going to work with that engine combination because it's pulling so much vacuum. Exactly. But
for the street.
Yeah, for the street, the Quadrajet wins hands down, bro.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Man, I'm telling you. That's the ticket. Fuel economy and torque, and then it's got the 2 wormholes to hell. Once you open them suckers up, man, you can hear it.
That's awesome. All right. And here's something for Mr. Dallas right here.
Oh, what do I see? Last week you mentioned the Buick V6 has interference issues with the cam. Is this just the even fire V6s or the odd fires also? Did I mention interference issues with the cam? All the Buick small blocks and the V6 all have that same problem when you get so much stroke in them, where the rod bolts are really close to the cam. They're to be honest with you, that entire engine family would, if you have a lot of stroke in it. The 350 Buick is the one I mentioned, I believe, that where the rod bolts come into contact, but all the engines from that family are really close to the cam. The cam center and the crank center are pretty dang close. The V6 having a lot less stroke, it probably has quite a bit more clearance, I would assume, like 0.4 inches more clearance. So you're talking about a ½ inch more clearance. So I don't think the V6 is really going to have that issue until you really get some stroke in them.
Yeah.
Or lots of lift, I guess. If you got 400 thousandths more lift, so your 800 lift cam is out of the question.
And B is on Edelbrock carbs. Is there a kit for worn out throttle bores? No, there's really not. It's a pretty inexpensive carburetor. You can get really clever with if you really want to, you could drill it out and put bronze bushing them.
That's the way they do them with the Quadrajets. And yeah. I was actually going to throw something out there. One of the very first Wednesday night tech talks we ever did was with Riley's rebuilds.
Yep.
And if you're needing a base plate that's not all worn out and boogered up,
talk to her.
You should probably give Riley a call and see if she's got one laying around. And we noticed something interesting that Shane actually sent it to me. Riley's rebuilds actually received the Jesse Combs Female in Automotive Industry Award this year, which is a big deal, right? Like huge. big deal. So we were just happy to have her as a guest on here the first few times we did this.
Think about that, man. She started here a year ago. Look where she's Riley. Here.
I don't know if she used to listen to the show all the time and then chime in every now and then. And I haven't seen her, I guess probably since we moved over to Slant Daily Garage.
Yeah. I've only talked to her once since then. But yeah, she's like you said that one time. She's too big for us little peons down here.
Yeah, down here anymore. She's just like, hey man, where does this poo in the toilet go? Oh, onto these guys.
Right.
We're just lowly nobodies anymore.
Okay, so let's talk about Plan Z. We have a little bit of an update with Plan Z. So I went up and saw Mr. Uncle Tony this weekend. I got a lot of Slant 6 stuff from him, and especially I got a 170. You know the 170 that was in the Mazda Miata? Remember that little car he was building?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got the 170 out of that, and I got another 225 that's 60 over that he had laying there. I got a whole bunch of stuff from him. So, and we talked about the whole Wednesday night thing, and here's the difference is that I'm doing this personally, me. I can only speak for me, and I'll tell you what he said. For me, I'm only doing this to help you guys out. I don't care about subscribers. That's not my ultimate goal. This is not my job. I'm doing this just for the community, to have a connection with an engineer that works for TCI or Edelbrock or whatever, and just to bring you guys real tech from the real side of the industry. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not making this into a business. Tony, on the other hand, this is his business, And why he changed from Thursday to Wednesday, and he explained it, and I understand it, is that they're in a position now where he's able to kind of do some stuff for his wife. And what they're doing now on Thursday nights is they're doing dog training. I guess it's something she's always wanted to do, and they're at a point now where they can do that, which I'm happy for them. So they had to move it to Wednesday night. So it doesn't really hurt me much because I'm not doing this for the financial gain. Let's put it that way.
Well,
he's doing it for business.
I've never done any of this for the financial gain. If that would have been the case, I would have had 30,000 subs and done all kinds of stuff by now.
Yes.
Right. But it was more or less just like, hey, this is a hobby. This is fun. I enjoy doing it. We have a pretty decent following for just a crowd that's like, you come in here on Wednesday, there was people showing up at 4:19.
Right.
And we really do this because the lost when the magazines went belly up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's Shane and I probably both were the same. I had a subscription to like probably 10 magazines at the same time at one point, right? I had like an addiction to them.
Yep.
And even though it was 90% ads and you only got a few actual articles out of it, I used to read them things until they were essentially gone. Now, there is no place to go get this information unless you pay through the nose to go to some, I'd like to call it, trumped up school, right? UTI has a hot rod program. What's that place in like Montana or Idaho? They got a freaking hot rod program. But Shane and I pretty much learned from Hot Rod Magazine, Junkyard, and blowing junk up, right? And that's pretty much what you the education that you got when you were just a small hot rodder trying to make things happen. And we're trying to keep you from making our same dumb mistakes.
Yeah, that's it. And why I do what I do in the industry is because of my racing and wanting to go faster and blowing crankshafts onto the ground shaft and learning and learning junkyard parts, how to make junkyard parts go fast. That's really it. And thinking outside the box, because I just couldn't throw down a couple, C notes. I had to well, what can I use that's awesome? So anyway,
I don't even use awesome stuff. I just use garbage.
Yeah,
right.
Garbage. Sometimes still, even to this day, from the trash, like someone else's leftover stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take it.
The Quadrajet that's on my Suburban, that's where it came from. The dude was actually using it. He had it on his bench, was using it to test his hammer capabilities and see if the hammer still worked well. And I'm like, hey, dude, before you put one more dent in that sucker, I will take it off your hands. And I'll give you something worthy. Here's a brand new Edelbrock out of a box.
Patrick's asking Shane on Edelbrock RPM heads, can you buy the valve guides for them? I don't know. But Patrick, I will send you now. Tomorrow I'm busy. I'm at TCI tomorrow. So send me a text on Friday to remind me, because I'm taking all next week off. Just a heads up for everyone. I'm basically going under the radar, and I'm going to fly low, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm basically going to be working in the garage on my own stuff. And so Friday's pretty much my last day at work until the following Monday after Thanksgiving. So remind yourself to text me on Friday. Otherwise you won't get an answer until after that, but I will check for you.
Hey, look at this one right below that.
Right here.
Ron Ward says, I do this with you guys for entertainment and an excuse to eat Chinese food in front of my computer and drink Miller High Life.
Boom.
You don't need, see, Ron, you don't even need an excuse to drink Miller High Life.
That's right. The champagne of beers, man,
yeah,
right?
If you want a hangover, just start drinking it.
We used to call Budweiser Skull Cracker.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I tell you, Miller High Life used to be my beer of choice because you could get an 18-pack for like $6 or something around 2003. And then, I'm like, I love me some Miller High Life. And then like 2005, by the time that rolled around, it used to give me such a horrible hangover that I just stopped drinking it.
Coors Light for me, man. That's like East County water in San Diego.
Yeah. I haven't drank a beer in like, months.
I can actually tell you here because, I have it here on my I can tell you exactly how long it's been for me.
Now, I am not gonna lie. In my neighborhood, we have every 2 weeks we have a bourbon night. So all the neighbors get together for a bourbon night, and they share bourbons around, and you try them out, and you do the smelling. And now we're becoming like these yuppity. You smell your bourbon,
Little pinky up,
yeah, taste
pinky
it.
up. Yeah. So this 26th will be 9 months for me. So it's been 9 on the 26th on Sunday. That Sunday.
Yeah. Well, Watzonda 2B says, Shane, I hope you make a Rip Snorton 170. I will do the same for my 60 Valiant NASCAR compact replica someday. That'd be pretty bitchin'.
Yes. In fact, I'm thinking about that 170 to be like a high RPM monster, or even I might even turbocharge that one because it's going to be technically a bigger bore, shorter stroke, and then that way you can just cram all the PSI
I heard
you
something
wanted
yesterday that was interesting about Slant 6.
What's
I
that?
heard something yesterday. There's some guys that have hammered those things, bored them like 190 over.
Yes. Now, I've heard the same thing too, but I can tell you that every block I have, 60 over is the biggest I can go.
Well, I'm kind of wondering if there's some early, like, say, industrial blocks that have a lot more cylinder wall in them.
Yeah.
But I've heard this twice now where they bore them 190 over. And that's a lot, dude. God, I mean, I haven't heard. I think the last time I heard something that crazy was I found out you could do a 427 FE motor out of the early 352 blocks. And they'll handle some monster gargantuan 400 or 100 and something over.
Yeah.
You know, most Chevrolet, if you look at the Chevrolet big block, the 396, if it says high performance passenger cast in the back of the block, generally you can bore them 125 over.
Wow.
But
I'm thinking about on this 170 putting maybe a little concrete in the block, stabilize the bore. So that way I can RPM it a little bit.
Well, I'm doing all out 300, man. And I think I'm going to do like max bore on it, like max, and I'm going to concrete the block first.
Yes.
You pour the acid down in there, then concrete the block, and then
bolt all the heads on it and the main caps. Yeah. That's what I did. The block that's in the Cookie Monster right now, that's exactly what I did. Is I bolted on one block, one head, the main caps, did the concrete, bolted up the other side, made sure it was level, put levels on it, and then let it set for 2 weeks. Then rotated it and did the same thing again.
Without bogarting the Wednesday night tech talk, here's something I found that was super interesting. They make billet main caps for Turbo V6 Buick. Well, it's based on a 300, right?
Yeah.
And the main size is the same size. I'm going to try a set of billet main caps on a 300 block.
Oh.
And really turn this sucker up. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm actually going to, on the 170, I was thinking about making my own billet main caps for it, but making them as a uni piece. So it'd be one piece. So all the main caps are tied together.
Like a girdle, yeah.
Yeah, and then it ties to the oil pan rails too. So I don't know. That might be a little much because, you're going to get 400 horse out of it or whatever. But Colleen's asking me, Shane, was the most horsepower you ever gotten out of a Slant 6? Personally, me, my channel is Slant Daily Garage. So I've never really built anyone that's been over 200 to 220-ish. That's been about my max because I had to be able to drive it every day. That was my whole goal with it. I wanted something that I could play around with. That's the whole reason why I got Plan Z, was just for that. So that way I could play around with what I've learned and how the oiling system works and whatnot, and just try different things. Hey, what can the average guy do for Slant 6 is little power as there is. Can I run 13s in the car? Can it finish drag weight? Can it do what I want to do? That's
you know what I think. So the Slant 6 is known for like really one thing. Okay. It's not. Yes, exactly. Now I'm kind of wondering, here's what I'm thinking with that reliability thing. It is very reliable. It'll damn near run with no oil in it, right?
Yeah, right.
Can you build one that is rip snorting gnarly and it be reliable?
That's what I'm trying to do.
I'm wondering if that's like, and maintain that reliability factor, right?
Yes.
That's what I think
agree.
would be really cool.
And that's the biggest downfall I've seen on Slant 6s is the rocker arm oiling and the springs, because there is no oil. Technically, there's very little oil going to the springs to cool them down, because they run really light spring pressure. And when you have something that makes a lot of power, you're under a lot of spring pressure, and then you're cycling springs, it gets hot. That's the reason why I started putting a lot of oil up there, was to cool that down. So I agree with you, and that's
well,
why
you and I talked about this.
yes, and that's why I want to do a slant six at drag week that runs 13s and does drag week.
You don't need to have tons of spring pressure to make something work. You just have to have a well thought out valve train, right?
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's where that thing might come into its own.
But the RPM is what's going to kill it. That cycling, even if it's light spring, and you're not having a lot of oil up there, it will kill that. So I'm gonna do some testing on oiling with different set screws. Instead of putting it in the block, I'm gonna put it in the head, so that way I can just take the shaft off and start playing with set screws, so I can monitor how much oil is going on top. I can even pull it off the oil pump and then bring it up to the head, so that way I can just do a secondary oil. I can block it off coming up, so that way I'm not taking any oil from the main. I'm taking right off the pump on the back side of the pump, coming straight up to the head. So, and then maybe even do spray bars. I've been thinking about a lot of different things and how I'm going to do this.
Well, so Fab Race Mod Repeat said 100% Dallas. It was a sad day when the only thing in the mailbox was bills and flyers. That he's got that exactly right. Didn't you like literally wait around the mailbox at the beginning of the month, like, oh, dude, it should be the new car craft coming out, and they're gonna, yeah. And that was me, especially as a kid when Cartoons magazine was a thing, right? So. Tall Garage says that G-Force wants $12,000 for their rear-wheel drive transmission Honda B Series setup. That was a fun phone call.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
I'm trying to think. You know what would be the ticket for one of those? I think there was a transmission that General Motors used that was like this weak, flimsy, like frickin' noodle. Late 70s, early 80s. I think was the Saginaw. Is that right? But the Saginaw 4-speed was like really light and spindly, meant for low torque, low horsepower muscle cars, to just get them down the road. Now I know, I want to say maybe it was Andrew Nelson or Calvin Nelson had one for sale. I saw on Facebook a Saginaw 4-speed, and that thing might be the ticket. Really, what you probably need for that 4-cylinder is like a 5-speed. And a T5 would actually do that job quite well. Because that's what it's made for. Stuff like that.
Fab Race Mod Repeat saying Shane once overhauled Slant 6, and that was 90 over. It was a very early block, was in a 38 Plymouth Dirt Modified. Yeah, I have some. Actually, it's funny. I've been getting a lot of Slant 6s. Like, they just come in droves. Like right now, they're just like raining. It's raining Slant 6s. I got a 64 out there. And I just haven't had a chance to sonic check it. Actually, it came out of Gilbert Slanted Sled. It's 60 over, and it is running hot. It's the one I did a little video on where I said the block is poop. It's poop for him because when I checked the one side, the thrust side, it seemed thin. But I'll do the rest of the check on that, and I might even make a video about that and how I'm sonic checking the blocks. So that way we can kind of see what I'm looking for on those. But that's 90 over. That's pretty good. Yeah. Mostly old parts. This is Ron, right? Yes. Have you ever considered putting a 198 crank in a 170 to improve our rod ratio? Yes. I have. I'm looking for a lot of things. The 170, I'm going to leave it alone the way it is. I might change the cam out, but as far as that goes, I'm just going to leave it a 170 the way it sets, and I'm going to run it and just try to show people what you can do with the stock setup and just doing some basic home prep, cylinder head prep, really easily. Back cutting the valves, just cleaning up the bowl, getting your camshaft correctly made for the engine, and then just doing a basic setup. Both Dallas and I said that, there was my car went like 1060s, right? And doing nothing more than just chassis work and a few other things. I dropped a whole second off the car by doing nothing else but just chassis work. I want to see if the same thing happens with the Slant 6. Can I, just by tuning it and whatnot, can I just improve it by, I know we're dealing with very small numbers here, but can I make it go faster, for just small improvements? How much is it? How much is it even worth it? So.
Well, so mostly old parts. Ron Ward says Dallas, who brewed the original No Names Nationals beer? That stuff was absolutely delicious. I don't know what one you're referring to. I'm assuming it's a bottle that has American flag like lettering on it. That said No Name Nationals beer on it. That was from RC Industries.
Ooh,
Yeah. So give him a shout out there. He brewed the beer and brought it down from No Name Nationals.
nice. See, moving on down. And I remember lower cap. Okay, and he's saying a little cap girdle assembly on a Bonneville engine. Always thought that it would be a great idea for a Model A Ford Flathead. Yes, I'm going to try to. I'm going to try to do that. Let's see if I can do it. Oh yeah. He's going back to the old Slickum 50 commercials. They're pouring the sand on the slant sixes. Moving on down. Let's see. 2 hacks. Oh, here we go. Dallas, just for you.
Okay, he says, I came across a pic of Jimmy's 392 Hemi powered front engine dragster sitting in front of your dad's old shop. Oh, well, the gas station. Yeah, that was only around for a few years. And unfortunately, my father decided to go into business for himself during the oil embargo, and he ran a gas station. That did not go over well. It did go over just fine if you didn't have kids and a wife and want to eat. But he wasn't going to drag us through that, so that didn't last long.
That sucks.
Yeah, but the neat thing is that Jimmy, his machinist that Jeff is talking about there, rented out the bay next to my dad's shop, or is actually part of his shop, and had a machine shop in there for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
it's funny you say that about a machine shop. So I called up BB&T, which is our local machine shop around here. They do really good stuff. Dennis is the guy who does the Silverback Gorilla races at the.
Is that where he works at?
Yeah, he's.
That's why he looks familiar. Well, BB&T used to be the 5-liter Ford place to go. It's in South Haven, Mississippi, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I used to stop by there and get parts every time I came from Pascagoula up to my parents' house in Illinois.
Yeah, it's right there off that little side road, right over the train tracks. Yeah, so I called them up to check on Gilbert's slant. It's like, hey, I got a slant 6. I want to bring it in here. How far do you think they are behind in machine shop work right now?
If it's anything like the machine shop I got here, it's almost 2 years behind.
Okay, well, I don't feel so bad then. He's 7 months behind right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
7 months. So I'm going to have to call up Gilbert and say, yeah, we're the new old block that we're going to use. We're not going to now at this point, because I don't want to have a block just sitting around for 7 months, or a car, taken apart. I've got plenty of blocks here. I'll just start sonic checking things now and seeing what I can do as far as building what I have, and make him a decent engine from what I got.
Re-bearing, and just hone that sucker out.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a lip in it. You can't feel it, but it's definitely there by miking it. I've got some other stuff I can check out.
Well, rule of thumb used to be, if you can catch your fingernail on it, is when it needs machined.
Yeah, I can't catch my fingernail on it, but
Slam
I can
her back
measure
together and send it.
What I was thinking about doing is doing all the oiling mods on his block, and then getting all that mud out of it. It's got about 3 inches of mud in the back, so it's gotta help cool it. And at that point, so yeah. I almost posit the 1ZZ FE had a lower cap girdle as well. Yes, I believe you're right. Correct. Say with the K series, or the Nissan K engine, that's got a basically a one-piece girdle also.
Well, the Cadillac North Star has an entire lower engine girdle.
Yeah, exactly. It bolts on.
Yeah.
Ron's asking, Sunday the garage, will a larger diameter or beehive spring offer better cooling and durability than a stock Slant 6 diameter springs? Here's the thing, is that you're not really opening it much. The way the Slant 6 is, it's obviously 30 degrees. The very high end of it, the higher end up here, is where the rocker's at. And the rocker sits at an angle like this. So it goes down, and when it's down at about 450 lift is when it's about level. So Yeah, I've tried different springs, but it's a funky installed height. It's like one 400 or one 500. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head because there's not much lift on those things. And I've tried putting a beehive in it. Most of the beehives are going to be like an LS style or conical, and they're going to have an installed height of 1/700 and so on and so forth. For an all out type of deal, if I went like say with an 8 millimeter type of valve, then yes. But for what I'm doing, I think the 340 stock springs are like the best ones to run. And for lift, for like say 450 lift, the springs I have on it right now, they have about a seat pressure of about, I think it's 90 on the seat, and I think it's 200 over the nose. But once again, you're not talking much over 5,000 RPM on a slant six. It's at least on 225, just because there's just the piston speed goes through the roof. Yeah. Unfinished project saying 2 years, 7 months sounds like an excellent time to open a machine shop. You are correct. That's the reason why I'm saying this. Is if someone
the problem
has
would be to get the machines right now. So if you haven't noticed what's happened over the past 10 years is that machine shops have been closing up left and right, and all the other ones been buying all their machines. Parts. Yeah. Yep. And if they had a machine that was anything 20 years or newer, they were buying them up, and then all the thing that you were left with was the junk. You can get on, like, depending on what you wanted to do. I actually came up with a plan to run a machine shop essentially out of my garage that was just focused on cylinder heads, because the shops nowadays won't take the time to do cylinder heads anymore.
That's right.
And the price of the cylinder heads, you're almost to the point where after you spend $500-600 on a set of stock cylinder heads, you almost feel foolish that you didn't spend another $600 and just buy a brand new set of aluminums. So, right. Yeah. But it depends what you have. I mean, if you're running a Buick, it's still going to be $2,000 something more dollars that you're going to need to spend. So $600 is a good price for just refurbishing a factory head.
Yeah.
Let's see.
He is asking an awesome question here. He is asking, will Gen 3 Hemi bolt up to a 904 727 trans? Is there any issues with starter, etc.? Thinking of putting one in my A-body. Here's the thing, is that on a 904 727, the starter actually bolts to the transmission. So you don't have any issues with that. And it's on the driver's side, just like on a regular most things. So you should have plenty of room there. Where you're going to have issues with, and the bolt pattern's identical. Where you're going to have issues is where you're going to need something is going to be in the flex plate, because they do have a special, I believe there's zero offset on the. Yeah, so you're going to have to. There's a spacer you're going to have to get for that to work correctly, and I'm trying to remember how much it is. I don't remember. I don't
TCI
remember how
makes
much.
It?
Huh?
TCI makes it.
I believe we do. Yes, I believe we do. In fact, I know we do. So yes. I'll get the part number for you, and if nothing else. But yeah, it's a pretty simple deal. A lot of people have done it. But yeah, if you're going to run a Gen 3 Hemi behind the 904, behind the 6.4, remember a 6.4 with a camshaft makes right at about camshaft headers, a tune-up is about 600 horsepower.
Exit stage left 904.
Yes, so you're right at and pretty comparable in the torque. Now, so you're going to have a beefed up 904. So if it's something you don't want to mess with, go with the 727. But if it's something that you've got a good 904, then it'll be just fine. If it's a 5.7 like eagle headed type of 5.7, a 904 stock 904 will be just fine. Be good.
So Ron Ward's saying that his hometown Topeka, Kansas had 7 good quality machine shops 30 years ago. Currently, there are only 2 reputable shops. They are absolutely swamped.
Yeah.
And that's happening all over the country. For a long time, people weren't rebuilding nothing. And I'll tell you where they came back. Where they came back was COVID. When everyone was locked down at home during a lockdown, right? Essentially, everyone got on those projects they've been kicking around for 20, 30 years, right? Or they had a chance to just retire at that point and then get on to the projects they were wanting to do. And all of a sudden, I noticed it because I was building motors, just trying to sell stuff out of my garage, trying to bring in extra cash during that time.
Yeah.
And it went from a 2-month wait to a 4-month wait to a 6-month wait to a question mark.
And then
right?
now they've just stayed behind this whole time.
Right. And the sad part is they don't teach any of this metal shop stuff anymore in schools, so you can't just go hire some cat and throw them right in there. You got to train them how to even read a micrometer first.
Yes.
So that's what my machine shop was bitching about. And I use Tommy's in Springfield, and they're excellent. They're good at what they do. Frank up there is fantastic. But, man, I tell you what, don't try to get a turnaround absolutely quick, because it won't happen. And it's nothing against those guys. It's just that they're literally one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
Yeah. And he was, I saw the engine stacked up the blocks. They had full engine builds just stacked in towers ready to go because they were just waiting on, the machine shop guy. I think there was 2 guys back there, and you can see the machine shop from the front counter. So, and it's an old school like shop. I mean, they've got tires.
You know what would be really smart? If you were to open a machine shop where you ran 3 freaking shifts.
Yeah, right.
And just run it 24/7, man.
Oh,
and
dude,
you'd be cranking them out.
Yeah. And only be open like, at certain times, but then the guys in the back are just running here's what you got to get done tonight. You can do that.
This is the list of crap. You grind these 15 cranks, you're out of here.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
But that might be the way to go. So
yeah, I was thinking, Patrick's asking, how much would a 11/32 stem impact flow or a 5/16 stem? I understand the diameter difference. It is literally minuscule. It does show up. You can see it. You can port around it. Really, where you're going to gain it is in the valve guide, not necessarily the stem itself. Where you pick it up is going to be in weight. As far as the valve train, you can run a much different spring. You're going to gain RPM because of the weight. You're going to go from say 79 to like 72 grams. Let's call it, as far as like on the exhaust valve. I've seen it. It's probably, I've seen 10 CFM, but by the time you bolt on an intake manifold, you're going to see a lot less than that. So to me, it's just not worth it, all that machine work to change it out. But the only reason I would do it on slant 6 is so that way I would get a longer valve so that way I can have more lift. That's all. Because it's got a long arm length on the slant 6. It's the same as a big block Chevrolet.
And you and I have talked about this because I was obsessed with this for a while. Okay. Yeah. And it really just has to relate with the junk that I work on is the old Buick stuff, right? And early Buick's small blocks had 11/32 stem valves. And when everything changed over to the big block Buick in 1967, all of that changed. The following year, the 350 Buick came out, and they all went to a 3/8 stem valve because they're racing them, they're breaking the stems off the valves and all that. Mm-hmm. Well, now with the engineering behind the metallurgy in the valves weren't breaking off, so they kept going to smaller and smaller and smaller stem valves. Well, now an LS has an 8mm valve, and that's a little bit smaller than your 5/16 stem, right? And now from a 3/8 to an 8mm, you're talking a considerable difference.
That's right? A big difference, yes. But between these two, it's nothing.
Well, when you're talking an old school cylinder head that has a 3/8 valve in it, okay, and you're looking at, if you go to buy a set of aftermarket heads and they're $3,000, right? You do everything you can with the factory castings that you got, and what you're looking at is you could seriously improve airflow just based on the stem, because there's a difference between an 8mm valve and an 8mm aftermarket valve. Okay, an 8mm aftermarket valve will also be back cut, and the stem will be cut down even further. Yeah. So now you're talking like that thing might actually be like 9/32, okay, where it's cut down, where it's neck down at, and you're making a drastic improvement because there's so much less valve stem area in there
and mass.
Right, and then the valve itself is no longer just a valve; it's a tapered, high performance valve that is focused on 100% increasing airflow, right? And I think that's where the gain is to be. And I'd really like to take something that had a 3/8 stem valve and just see what you can do with an aftermarket LS valve.
Yes. that in that instance, that's a huge difference because you're talking about 375 down to, a much smaller one. But between these two here, a 5/16 and a 11/32, there's not much gain there. There's really not on those between those two. But between what you were just talking about, 3/8 to 8 millimeter, that's massive. That's a big difference.
Yeah. You see what Tom Brown is saying up here? He says my machine shop guy will barely touch anything performance when he can make $500 an hour turning industrial cranks and $2,000 rebuilding industrial heads. Sucks for us guys, but I see his point. And do you remember, like 20 years ago, this is the way that the body shops went?
Yes.
They started doing just the insurance jobs.
Yep.
And then nobody got anything painted. And that's why you start having all these cars that look,
like
the ratty muscle car became a thing because you couldn't get anybody to paint it. And if you did, it was like $10,000, $15,000. Yeah.
Yeah. $6,000 or more. Yeah. So Val 360 Jimmy's asking, is it worth building an early 5.7 Hemi for boost? It's expensive trying a 6.4, 6.1 around here. Yes. Okay. If you're going to get a 5.7, I highly recommend getting an 09 and later, as far as like 09, 10, 11, as far as that late model style. The early versions of those 5.7s just don't have the head flow, and then it's not worth it. But a 5.7 is just as good. That Eagle head flows 330 CFM right out of the box. In fact, those early heads is what I got on my, I'm sorry, those Eagle heads, what I have on my 6.1 that have been ported by Frankenstein, and they flow just as good as Apaches for about the same cost. So a 5.7 is awesome.
Well, what was the downside of the early 5.7s? Weren't they dropping valve seats?
Well,
isn't that what the problem was?
The heads just don't flow.
Really?
I mean, they flow great for, even a crappy flowing 5.7 head is light years better. It's better flowing than the best LS head.
Right.
But in the big scheme of Hemi, it doesn't flow that much. It's like 290 CFM.
Because I remember all of these blocks are cast in the Mexico casting plant, right?
Yes.
All of them.
All of them.
The early 5.7s don't have displacement on demand, right? They don't have that. Mm-hmm. So the way I'm looking at it would be the early 5.7 short block would be the one to get, and then buy a set of later model heads.
Yeah.
Will they bolt on? Are they interchangeable?
Yeah, everything's interchangeable. Yeah, it's all Gen 3. It's all the same
Problem
thing.
solved. I'd find myself a short block and then scour Marketplace, and if Craigslist still exists, some Craigslist until I got myself a set of 10 heads.
But here's the thing, though, is that you can get a 5.7 late model for about $1,500, and that comes with a VVT block, so that way you can control cam phasing. And then you're going to change the lifters anyways when you take them out, because you're going to want a performance lifter. So then you could just block those lifters off that MDS system on that. It's no big deal. And then you have the bitchin' heads, because if you go the other route, you're still going to spend about $1,000 on an early model Hemi, because they're selling just a Hemi name, and then you're going to spend another $1,000 just on the heads, on the Eagle heads, because the people know what they have. So it's just a better route to get it in one shot, right off the bat.
Huh.
Yeah. So the 6.4 and the 6.1s, yes, they're getting expensive now. They're like what, $3,500 or something like that for 6.4. So yeah.
Well, Mopar Mustang and Minivan says, what if I have a 2008 5.7 Hemi block? I think I have a set of 2012 heads. Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Where's he at? Right here. Yep.
Yeah. And then the one below that, Ron Ward saying that, Dallas, have you priced materials for bodywork and paint lately? 1 gallon of white toner for a mixing bank is pushing $1,000 these days.
Whoa.
Paint work is astronomically high priced these days. This is where this is why I don't paint stuff. Right.
Right. I'm all about it's patina.
I like painting stuff because it is instant gratification. You can work on it for a week, have that panel straight as an arrow, prime it, block it, and get it all perfect. And then you lay down the paint, and it's like instant gratification. It looks so damn good compared to the piece of junk you brought in there to begin with.
Yes.
But I can't see where paint would be this expensive. And this is where I would start looking at alternatives. Hey, you know what? PPG paint, might be $1,000 for a gallon these days, I'm going to go to Tractor Supply, and I'm going to give me some Tractor Supply and good clear.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say, because I was at Tractor Supply the other day and they have paint for the tractors.
Yeah.
They literally have paint for the tractors there. So,
yeah.
And you can get a spray gun from Harbor Freight and just do it yourself.
And you know, that may be the new thing is like maybe I need to do a YouTube video on how to El Cheapo your paint job and not look like crap. Because see, what I was always been told, and this may be stupid, you know, I don't know. I've only done a couple of, and I've never really done a full paint job. I've only done a couple of things. I did the hood on my Suburban. I did fenders on my Suburban. But all the body work is the hard work. Laying the paint down is the easy part, right? And that's what you got Earl Scheib for. Yeah. But the paint quality doesn't have to be there either. As long as you use the same paint over the whole car, I would assume it's fine. In my opinion, and this is just me, okay, there's only one purpose for paint, and that's to keep your junk from rusting.
Yeah.
If it looks nice, hey, that's a plus too.
Yeah.
If it's all the same color, that's a bigger plus as well. But it's literally there to keep you from freaking rusting to the ground. And I will use Krylon on a roller if I have to before I sand and paint a car that I don't have, you know, I don't want to have a bunch of money in.
Yeah. Dust Devil Garage asking, what about the 5.7 with the new Edelbrock heads? Yes. The Performer RPM heads will work on the 5.7. The Victors with that small bore will not. It's got a big valve. It's a very large valve to make that, you know, 400 CFM, a Veriflow Plus. But on the 5.7, you can run the Performer RPM, and the Performer RPM is plenty of head. I mean, that is 380 CFM. It's actually better head flow and better velocity than the Apache head. Now you can port an Apache head to outflow it, but then you're buying the heads plus that, and you can get that Edelbrock head for about, I think it was $13.99. That's with valves. So it's a win-win. So in my book, that just replaced the Apache head as the Performer RPM head, pound for pound.
Do you see this thing right here? And Tavo's Garage says, "Hey guys, Uncle Tony just told me to get out of his live chat and come here."
Oh,
did you get thrown out? What's that in relation to?
Where was that at?
That's right below this Dust Devil's question at 744.
Oh. Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, I don't know what that's in relation to. Did you get thrown out of there, Tabo?
No. Well, he said he was gonna send some people my way because, you know, he's got. We talked about lives, and I told him I'm just a lot more technical as far as what we talk about on things. His is more of like rapid fire questions, so it just is what it is. So I'm not going to throw any shade. So I'm
just kind of wondering. I'm just kind of surprised that even happened.
Yeah.
All right. So Ant D says, "What was the valve seat issue with the 5.7? The first few years of the Hemi, they had valve seats after like." I don't know how many years, you know, it would take quite a few heat cycles, but the exhaust valve used to fall right out of them, I think.
Yes, and it would beat the crap out of them. In fact, that was my job for the longest time was basically changing out cylinder heads on Hemis. This is actually where I learned how to take apart those things. I would have them lined up. I would have them three, you know, Magnum, a Charger, and a Challenger, all about the same year. All would drop seats, and I would just literally go right in a ring as I would go through, and I would do them all at the same time. I would do three, you know, engines at once, literally right in front of me. So I'd just go from one, take that off, do that one, move on to the next. So yeah, it was a thing. And they actually give you a spec. There was a spec on how bad the piston was and still be usable.
Oh, that's rough, dude.
Yeah, it was and there was a lot of times where the piston was beat and it ran absolutely beautiful after that. The person didn't want to pay for the piston. They're like, nope, I just want to do the heads. I need this car. I'm okay. So we had the head welded up. We put new seats in it and put it back on there, and it ran just fine. You couldn't even tell that it had that in there. So.
Oh, you know what? I see something that's pretty cool here. Well, I was going to say something about Danny Boyd's comment. If you're brave enough to go single stage, then your finish out is just as important. I would agree, but I mean, literally, The paint, I think, is the minuscule part. As long as you have something on there keeping it from rusting, right?
Yeah.
And then Kevin saying he used Summit single stage urethane, works great, stays shiny. A lot of gray primer and red primer cars running around. That was the 90s.
Yeah. Mine was the red. It was like a dust red, kind of with a gray
Dude,
side.
we used to have a guy. I can't remember his name. He was an old school hot rodder, and all he did was like 50 stuff. But he had an old like a Ford F1. You know how it's got like removable fenders and doors and the rear fenders and all that stuff would unbolt, and you could take it off like literally in minutes.
Mm-hmm.
He was obsessed with painting it and getting it straight, and it literally would be a different color every week, right? And this guy would pull the fender off and sand it down and try to straighten it more, or he wanted to go with a different paint color or whatever, and he would shoot this stuff just a panel at a time until he found what he really liked. Then he would take the time to blow it all apart and sand it down and paint it. But
Wow.
That's kind of what I envisioned, my Suburban doing, since they make every part available for a square body GM truck. So, but Heavens Mopar says something interesting here. Unfinished project. The messed up fiberglass Charger hood will arrive at the No Name Nationals on the car all busted up unless I have time beforehand to fix and paint it. Why don't you bring it to No Name Nationals and let everybody else fix it and paint it for you? That would be pretty bitchin', right?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think it would actually be kind of cool.
There's actually a question here that's interesting. Ron's asking, does anyone offer a dual 4500 series tunnel ram for 5.7? Well, I can tell you this because I'm doing it for myself, but I am currently in the middle of designing a tunnel ram for Gen 3 Hemi that will work on, this is going to be for my Cookie Monster when I put the Gen 3 Hemi in it. But that way me and Dallas can run Tunnel Ram Mafia, and we'll both have NA engines, and we can run heads up again. Yes, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I am currently working on it. It's going to work with our new heads that I'm going to have on my engine, or if they're ready at that point. If not, I'll just keep the Apache heads that are on it. But yes, I'm working on one right now, and it's going to be interchangeable, so that way you can take tops off, change it whatever top you want. I wanted it to work with the fast setup, so that way you can run the fast top also. And that way any type of Holly setup on the top, any Edelbrock setup will bolt onto it. So it'd just be basically a bottom piece that it's fully interchangeable. So
it's kind of like the high ram that Holly has today, but it's Edelbrock version, and it's going to be interchangeable with everybody else's top.
Yes. And it's going to be cool. Better. It's even going to be better because
you know what you should do? What I think is badass that nobody does, what would be really cool.
Sure. What you got?
Make a top for it there. You could put like an 871 blower on it.
Oh, well,
nobody does that.
You're pulling thoughts out of my head that have already been written down. That I was going to talk about that when I had it.
Universalize the tops. That would be cool.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, because the top, it bolts down and it's got an O-ring, you can bolt whatever top you want onto it. So that way you can put 871 on it, you can put a 671, you can whatever blower you want on top of it. So that way it'll be completely versatile. Also, too, the 7085, I believe, is the tunnel ram. That was our latest and greatest tunnel ram. That was actually off of the Big Block Chevrolet. I'm using all the knowledge that we have from that, the taper, angles, how it comes in. I don't want to go too deep into that kind of stuff, but that's actually how I'm designing the port. And I'm making, since it's a symmetrical port on a Hemi, you're going to have one left and one right slightly. It's going to have a slight bow in it, so that way they come together. So that way it will still be together, and then the carb will be right on top. So that you don't want to have them way far apart. You want to have them a little closer together, so they'll be right underneath the carburetor. So, yeah. So, hey, Dart Sport, Mr. John Wilburn, bringer of the No Name Nationals, is in the chat right here. Hello,
he's coming to you live from Cope Racing Transmissions. Is it cold up there? Did John Cope take you out for a nice dinner to some of them fantastic Chicago-style pizza joints?
Yeah. We are moving down. Man, we got behind it. My thing just updated. Okay. Here. ND said, I tried to Tractor Supply magic paint. It never hardened. Wound up stripping it and using single stage. Okay. I saw it at Tractor Supply. So thank you for that, because I was going to try.
I'm going to use it.
it's there. I mean, it
Yeah.
was very inexpensive too, and I was like, wow. And they had
Yeah.
all the stuff there, and I
It's
was
like
thinking,
soy based or something. I don't care. I don't care. As long as it keeps rust off, that's all I'm caring about.
yeah. And it's funny you say that because that's why I've been like, kind of like, I have one car that's painted, and it's the Cookie Monster, because I always wanted a car that was painted, right?
Uh-huh.
Other than that, the rest of it, everything else is going to stay patinaed. I'm just not going to care anymore. Just, hey, you know what? It took it 50 years to get to that point. Oh, Mr. Wilson also did tell me at Muscle Car Solutions about this. It's like a dull coat. It's actually it's
Oh, that's
stuff
Poppy's patina.
I think that's what it is, but it's something else. It doesn't have that name, but it's something like that. And you buy it and you can apply it, and it coats it and it protects it, and it leaves your car just the way it is, and it kind of gives it a dull little coat. So yeah, so
I think you know what? Maybe I'll start doing that. I'm
yeah,
my '63 Buick. I'm gonna see how I can get the paint to look. I'm gonna see
I'm
if I
gonna
can
do that.
bring it back.
I'm going to do that on the Lizard King because it's at the perfect patina where I want it to be right now. It was kind of like a faded out paint, and it didn't have enough, like a little bit of gray, like that little bit of powder rust coming through. Now being here, it's got just enough of that surface powder rust coming through. So, yeah, I'm gonna basically just put it just the way it is. In fact, there was the very first Coffee and Cars. We were driving it home, and it was me and Lisa and the kids. And a guy pulled up next to me, and he goes, "Man, I love your car. It's like the perfect patina." And ever since then, I was like, "Okay, perfect. It's right where I want it to be."
Yeah,
I'm gonna call
ding.
it good. Ding. We have a winner.
Yeah.
It stays there. Going through. Anyone else? Did I skip over
Oh,
one?
Tom Brown saying get the epoxy paint that they use on anhydrous tanks. You can take a screwdriver to it and barely scratch it. I have found my favorite epoxy paint. No lie, I use it on almost everything I can. I literally was using. You go to Walmart to their paint section, and Rust-Oleum has an epoxy. What is it called? It's like a refrigerator paint. You know? Yes. And it comes in white and black. And I was using the black on everything. And I mean, you could literally lay it down while throwing up on whatever you're painting, and it would still look like a perfect sheen on this thing. I mean, you could lay it down at 20 degrees below zero and it's going to look great. I don't know what the stuff is. It lays down so freaking awesome. And then when you're done with it, if you got to take it off, I feel sorry for you, brother. I mean, it is like, get out some hardware.
That's awesome. Hey, we're getting close to now. Don't go anywhere for our 8 o'clock hardcore tech. This is going to be awesome. We got some cool stuff. It's DLC coded lifters, talk, cam, tech talk, and you're going to see what every week, every month. Actually, I'm going to bring you something about DLC that we could talk about this all the time. But there's every month I'm going to give you something new about the DLC lifters that we're kind of doing really good with a lot of different things. I'm trying to make sure I'm picking my words correctly here. So,
see, Tall Garage is saying you have to use the hardener with the Tractor Supply paint if you spray it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Huh.
Yeah, I saw that and it was cheap. I was like thinking, man, where are they getting this stuff from? But
Unfinished Projects is saying there's PPG offers a single stage equipment paint that outperforms Tractor Supply stuff for just slightly more money.
oh, okay, well, I've got a Tractor Supply in town. The only thing I like that is because I can go right down the street and buy that and come home that day with it. Doesn't come in the mail. Doesn't get stolen off my porch.
I don't know what he's talking about here. Fabrice Mod Repeat says Dallas Magic Paint is very temperature sensitive, even with the catalyst. I don't know.
I think he's talking about.
Is that the Tractor Supply stuff?
I think he's talking about the stuff that you were talking about for the
epoxy paint.
Yeah, I think that's what he's talking about.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
The one that you were talking about throwing up, and
Yeah, you could literally puke on it while you're painting it, and it would still lay down and look great.
Yeah.
Appliance paint. That's what it is. Danny Boyd's got it. It's appliance paint. That's what it is.
Okay. Appliance paint right here.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And it comes in like literally just like two colors, white and black. And I use the black on everything. Colleen Tebow says the same thing. I use it on almost everything. It is my favorite paint by far.
All right, so here we are, 8 o'clock. It's close enough. Today we're going to be talking about DLC coated lifters. I have some examples here so we can take a look at them. We're also going to talk about camshafts and why the DLC lifter is going to change the world when everybody starts implicating it. And camshafts, why, basically why it's not the cam's fault. 99% of your problems are self-inflicted. Just throwing that out there. So first off, we're going to start here with the DLC coated lifter. So I brought one in for you guys. You can see that is a brand new DLC coated lifter. That's the DLC coat. It's almost like a mirror finish. It really is. And this is a hydraulic lifter. And here is, now you saw what that looks like. Now this one here, take a look at that. Looks.
Yeah, it's black, just like the other DLC lifter.
Yeah. Let's put them side by side. They look literally identical, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. Here's the thing. One of these has 20 million cycles on it. And you can tell the other one's brand new. This one right here, it's got 20 million cycles on. This has gone through a 20 million cycle camshaft test. And that's what it looks like. And here's the thing that I'd never talked about on the DLC lifters before. As a DLC lifter, it's not just for running it on a cast core. This is the beautiful thing about the DLC lifters, that you can put this now on billet cores. So do you know what this means? That means that you don't have to be limited within a cast core parameters anymore. And we're going to get to that in a second. You can make a custom billet core and run these lifters on that. This is essentially the 90s, early 2000s NASCAR technology that is coming to you guys now. And here's the thing, is that when you have a cast core, this is a cast core that's been cut. And the really shiny is the hardness. That's where it's hard. The dull stuff right here, this is the unhard, right? This is when it's been cut. This right here is the thrust side. So you can see that the core has parameters that can be made within. So you say you have a core that can be, it will give you a range. Like this can go from 106 lobe separation angle to 110. This is a duration of say 230 to 250. It's got about X amount of lobe. So this person, when they had this was not one of our cams. This is actually someone who sent this cam in. We cut it. It was dangerously close to basically on this side right here. If you can see how close that is to, that's less than about 15 thousandths there before it actually gets through. So that is, even though it's still hard there, that you could have a problem with that. And here's also this is a camshaft from a person. He's on YouTube, and this cam, he swore up and down that there was a problem with the hardness on this camshaft. So as you can see, before I show anything, you can clearly see that this cam failed. It failed in many different spots. He swore the taper was wrong. He swore everything was wrong on this camshaft. So what do? We took the cam, we cut it. And you can clearly see, I'm trying to make sure can you see the
hardness?
Yeah, that's the hardness. That's how thick that hardness is going over the lobe. And you can see that it took this lobe off, and it's hard there. You can clearly see on this one here, it's got plenty of taper here on this right here, lobe 2, right? You can see right here, the taper is just fine. It's got 1.5 thou of taper. Even on this one right here, you can see as it goes over the nose, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. You can see as the lifter goes over the nose, it's supposed to rotate. And then it basically just, as it goes through, it's riding on the one side and slowly turning. Then as it goes over the nose, the lifter essentially stops, it rotates around, and then it kind of slowly goes around. And you don't want too much taper because then you're putting too much force in one area. The problem that this guy had is clearly break-in. And when he sent pictures of his setup, you could see that he had the inner springs clearly on there. He had too much spring pressure. And this is exactly what will happen doing this. Now, with the DLC coated lifter, you can see how shiny and smooth that is. Now, this has also got about, there's a crown in this. I'm not at liberty to tell you the crown on this. You can figure it out, but there's little proprietary in this, but you have to have the DLC coated lifter. It's all about setup. You have to have the camshaft that is set up and the lobe that is designed for a DLC coated lifter, because it does require, it's not like just, hey, I can get these lifters and just throw them in any old cam. No, it's got to be set up for it. It's all about setup. But what's even good about this, and this is what I was talking to Mr. Dallas Brown about, is that in the Buick land, the problem with them is having the front snout in the gear for the
to run the distributor.
So you can run now billet hollow cores, and you can see that you can have a lot harder. This is an induction hardened billet core.
That one's like 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch.
Yes, exactly, because it's induction hardened. It's a hollow core. It's much lighter, and you can polish these out. You can get a great finish because the DLC coated lifter just doesn't care at that point. And then you're open to whatever you want to do. You don't have to have 10 cores for a Buick, so that way you can have all the different profiles that you have for that.
You just have
that engine.
A square core, and then you just throw it in the three axis CNC or whatever, and freaking just start chewing into it.
Yeah, so you can just have a round lobe cam, so you can have one core on the counter, and then we can cut these to whatever you want, any firing order you want. It doesn't matter. No more cam cores,
huh? Yeah, no more cam cores at that point.
No more cam cores. That's what this changes. That's why this is such a game changer. It's not just that for the end user how awesome it is, but it takes people like comp cams and whatnot, so that way they don't have to have a plethora of cams. It brings down the cost, makes a little bit more manufacturing cost. The cams become a little bit more expensive because they're going to be one-off, but at least now you can get a camshaft and you're not waiting,
Right, but you could grind 20 different custom cams in one day.
Exactly, because it's on the same core, and it goes through a cut. So say you want to try different types of profiles and whatever, lobe separation angles or different firing orders. You want to see if a 4.7 is better on your engine than a 4.723 swap or standard firing order or whatever you want to do. You can do that now. So we're working hard on these things. But once again, I want to show so everyone can see this. This one right here, this is a brand new one. That is brand new, never been used. You can see it clearly. That has not been used. I just opened this up. This one right here, this one right here, it's got 20 million. Let's get because it's so shiny, it'll pick up any smudge marks. That right there has got 20 million. That one right there is brand new.
Well, you can tell by the side, because you can see the side scuffing on the lifter.
Exactly. That's why I show it. But you can see how shiny they are and how there's literally no mark on this one at all, just on the side. 20 million cycles. So that's my talk on the DLC coated lifter.
Let's answer some of the questions about the DLC coated, because it starts back about 803. I guess Ant D says, would we still need zinc in the oil for the DLC lifters? Okay, so they're going to technically tell you all the cam break-in process and procedures that you've done with flat tappet cams, continue to do them, but it is not required.
It's not. We're telling everyone to keep doing it because it does. The only thing it's going to do is just polish things in. Yes, you're still going to need to put some zinc in there because it's a high friction surface. We're telling everyone at this point to continue to use the zinc in it. The zinc's not going to hurt anything. If anything, it's going to help not just with your lifters, but it's going to help with your rock arm. It's going to help with your rock arm tips on the valves. The zinc helps with any type of friction of anything, plus the phosphorus and all that definitely helps. So yes, still run the zinc.
Okay.
And zinc is really easy to come by.
All right, 806 Auto Salvage Outlaws. I think the problem with cam lifters are the oil, because the oil today was not like it was. Well, the problem started in 2005 and 6 like that, when they started removing zinc from the oils, because the cars on today's road didn't require zinc. They had roller lifters, and the zinc was absolutely murder on the O2 sensors, and catalytic converters.
And there's also a couple more caveats to this, is that everybody wants more from a camshaft. So the old purple camshaft or your old, Doomcoff 3030. It's not good anymore.
Your 268H.
Yeah, it's not as good anymore. Everybody's looking about how to do these now. If you look at this very carefully, you can see, I don't know if this will zoom in on it, but you can see that there's a slight bit of a crown. See this crown right here? So an 812 lifter, stock Chevrolet, effectively becomes like a 770. So that's the foot now. That's what you have to deal with. So you can only ramp this in so fast before that lobe will go off the edge of this lifter. And then you have basically a corner of a metal going onto a corner of metal. So the only way to do that is to get is super aggressive. Huh?
Yeah. Big time problems then.
Yeah, big time problems. So there's only so much you can play with. And so on a Chevrolet, that's the reason why a lot of them go to rollers, but you can still get massively aggressive with this. And in fact, Chris Potter right now, he's our new cam guy there. He does all what Billy used to do. He's working on a lot of low shock profiles right now just for these. So, and why would you want low shock is because these things are going to be able to handle the RPM and these in really massive types of camshafts and whatnot. You want to keep all the harmonics and vibrations down on the valve train, so that way the longevity you can cut down on. I described it a few times like a pendulum. Okay, so you're not shocking the valve train and sending it downstream and having all these harmonics and the frequencies and you don't need a massive amount of spring pressure. You can run a lot less spring pressure, makes everything last a lot longer. All right.
Okay. So, and that's correct. Auto Salvage Outlaw is that they removed zinc from the regular conventional oils in 2005 and 6. You can find some that have zinc in them. Rotella does have zinc, and then that's a question here. Max Wedge Dig Dastardly is asking right below that: is it true Rotella oil has the wrong kind of zinc for flat tapping cam? No, zinc is pretty much zinc. It just doesn't have
the ppm parts per million.
Right. It doesn't have the quantity that you need for it to be a break-in oil. It will maintain once you've already broken it in. It will maintain. It just won't. I would not use it for break-in. I use a specific break-in oil, right? I mean, I look at it like this. You got thousands of dollars in this engine. Are you going to cheap out on $100 on oil when you get to the end? I mean,
exactly.
That's stupid, in my opinion. I'd rather I take the chance. I don't even buy the oils that you mix. That, to me, is snake oil, right? Literally snake oil. I just go buy motor oil that's specifically for break-in that has a really high parts per million number for zinc.
Driven.
Right?
It's got the best stuff right now on the market.
I use Royal Purple. I use Royal Purple because I buy it in bulk.
Yeah,
and you can get buy it in bulk.
Yeah,
and
I have
cheap.
Driven in the same parking lot as Comp. Driven literally is across the parking lot from us. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I just use and all of our testing that we do at Edelbrock is done with Driven oil.
And it's because you can walk across the parking lot and get it, right?
I can help walk across the.
Hey man, how much for shipping? Nothing. All right,
Right.
You guys got the deal.
It's $1.25 for a Coke machine, right? Coke, right? What's the difference? Cam grind DLC? Yeah, basically it's just the low shock. Just you're looking because anyone's going to be running these things. It's going to be high RPM, or looking for max performance or whatnot. So you're looking for something that's going to be when you call up Comp or Edelbrock and they make a camshaft, they'll know exactly. Everyone's been trained in this. Everybody at Edelbrock knows exactly how this all works.
Do they have DLC solid lifters? They have any solids yet?
I do not believe just yet, but I think they're working on those right now. In fact, I think that's what the test was going on, because I don't know right off top, but I do know that you can run these off the bottom and they work just like a solid anyways.
Right. I'm just wondering if they have any solids for those. And if they do, is the EDM hole going away, or are they going to have an EDM hole in the solids as well?
No, you don't need an EDM hole. In fact, the EDM hole was just a crutch. It was just a Band-Aid.
Right.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
If anything, what I would like to see is a flat spot on the side.
So that oil would run down.
Yeah, so you can have. I mean, when I say a flat spot, we're talking like less than 1,000th of an inch. Basically, it's just it's literally
a crevice for oil to seep through.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so as this spins, it just gets oil on there, around the thing. That's all.
Danny Boyd's asking, how many hours is 20 million cycles,
It's
right?
weeks. It's weeks, and it's not just you run it up to an RPM and it goes there. It literally goes from 2,500 to 7,500 and
Well,
back down.
okay. And I'll say what I've seen there because I went to their R&D section at
Uh-huh.
Comp one day. They don't have what you're thinking of, like where it's an engine running and they're just
No,
dumping fuel in it, right?
it's
They
electric
have
motor.
yeah, they have what is it, a Spintron? Is that what it is?
Spintron. Yep.
But it has no crank in it. It just has like a dummy crank,
It's a mandrel. It's just a spinning
right? And
mandrel.
it has no throws on it, and it's just to keep oil pressure in the engine.
Mm-hmm.
Is really all it's there for. And then that thing just spins, and it sounds so freaking weird because it sounds like an engine. Yeah, it sounds like an engine, but it's like you would swear that it's like got 40,000 horsepower, and it's because it's literally doing nothing but running the valves and the cam.
Yeah. And there's a lot of heat. We have to run an oil cooler, even though all we're doing is the mandrel is literally spinning the camshaft with the timing chain. And then, we put heads on it, and it's really only kind of running, one bank, or sometimes we'll run two banks on them. But we have to run an oil cooler on it and an oil tank because it will smoke that oil. It will cook it to death. Yeah. But yeah, it's weeks. Literally, it's weeks, and it's like running a circle track. So that's what it's set up for. It's like going into a corner at 2,500, coming out of the corner, going to 7,500, and going back down. And that's what it is. It just ramps in, ramps down, ramps up, ramps down. So that way, it always goes through.
Okay, so One-Eyed Cat saying now, when will the Mopar lifters be available?
Next year. That's all I can tell you is next year. That's what I'm at liberty to tell you.
Well, I'm assuming so that they're doing the General Motors, which is the smallest and probably the biggest demand. So the Chevrolet lifter is going to get it first. The smallest lifter and the biggest demand.
Yeah. Technically, no. You can with all of our profiles are technically low shock now. But I'm just saying that you can, when you get a camshaft and you're going to order DLC lifters with that camshaft, they will tell you exactly, hey, this will work just fine. This will not. What I'm telling you is that if you're going to use a camshaft outside of our company, I wouldn't recommend that because we're not sure if it's going to work with their load profiles. There are some companies out there that do not go to the extent that we do to test lobes and load profiles. Every load profile is not, we just don't create it out of thin air and send it out to the masses and say 2 thumbs up, hope it's going to work. That's not the way it works.
Yeah,
Literally
it's R&D and spend millions of hours testing it.
It's tested to death. We test springs, we test the rocker arms, we test everything, the push rods to it. We try to deflect it. We do everything to try to fail it.
Let's see. Okay. Tom Brown says, would a hollow core on a Buick be weak in the front snout?
No.
It's a billet.
Yeah.
It's no longer cast iron. It's billet steel.
And because the force doesn't go through the center. Force goes around the outside. That's how force works. So technically, it doesn't do anything at that point. It's just creating less mass from the center. Just like if you gun drill a crankshaft, same thing. Or gun drill.
God, that's got to be worth like a few. Yes. I'd say a few horsepower.
Yes, acceleration horsepower because there's less mass to accelerate.
To turn, right.
Yeah.
And then Tom Brown says, has there been any tests to see the difference in friction compared to the roller setup? Are they close?
Well, as far as friction goes, there's things I'm at liberty to say and there's things I'm not at liberty to say. Typically with a roller setup, just because of the spring pressures, you're going to get a difference in friction from that because to run a roller profile, how it hits the wheel, like if this is the side of the roller and how it's hitting the camshaft, instead of this hitting just like this and see how the point is hitting here, when you have a roller, the roller is going to hit on the side. I don't know if you can see this, but see how the roller is going to hit, and it hits here and then goes around the corner and then hits on the backside. So it hits much earlier. That's why the lobes have to be so different. and you got to run a much higher spring pressure for that. So it's hard to compare the two.
And that's because the lifter's so much heavier.
And the lifter's so much heavier,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of forces involved. But here's the thing: is that if you're running, say, a 1-inch lifter, when this happens, say you get a 1-inch lifter, I can tell you that you can get just as aggressive with a 1-inch lifter, or yeah, let's call it a 1-inch lifter, as a roller. But you're going to have a lot less mass to move because the lifter itself is going to be much lighter, because then you can make it a barbell or whatnot. There's no wheels, there's no link bar, there's no nothing. So therefore, you don't need to have as much mass on the valve train. Therefore, that creates higher RPMs.
I learned that way back 2004, I guess, was hydraulic roller. I was always all in. Like, I started screwing with 3 or 2 Fords, like, hydraulic roller is where it's at, yay! And then I found this old school hot rodder guy that was like, no, man, the solid flat tapping is where it's at. I'm like, how do you figure? He said, dude, you know how light you can get the valve train with a solid?
Yep. Absolutely.
Like, that's where your money's at. And I'm like, really? And then I tried it, and it was like, holy cow, this thing is so snappy.
Yeah.
You know? And it was just from light valve train.
Well, I'm glad he said it here, because the solids are coming soon. They are coming soon. There's a lot of stuff coming out next year.
So is Muscle Car Solutions? Does he work with you or something?
No, he doesn't work with us. He's an insider. Mr. Wilson is an insider.
He's got it all locked up, huh?
Yeah, well, he has a lot of our, he got one of our very first, carburetors, VRS carburetors that he got to test. So he's a good guy. Yeah. Mr. Wilson.
He says EDM is garbage.
Dang
it, that's what I just put in my Superstock motor.
Well, the problem with an EDM is that now you have a hole in the center of the face of the lifter. Now, technically, it's not in the center. It's slightly off center.
To the side. Yeah.
It's off to the side. But here's the thing, is that that's going to be where your pattern is. It's basically, if you look at a lifter, it's going to look like a little sun, about a third of the way out, 2/3 of the way out, and that's basically where the EDM lifter is going to be. Now you have something that's going to grind away. They're really great for drag racing, circle track. That's what they're good for, because it's not cycle time. But if you're driving down the street, that's where you're going to have an issue with an EDM lifter. If you have an issue with an EDM lifter.
Let's see.
Anything
Buff's Garage is saying, hey, Dallas, stop him in to say hi and hit the like. All right, well, thanks. And everybody else should go hit that like. Smash that like button.
Did I make sure? There was a lot. I'm sorry. When I was talking about it, it's hard to read the chat, so I apologize. I didn't mean to get so far behind, but I thought these were these right here. These are hydraulic. There's a hydraulic inside there, and you can tell also too, because the high pressure, the hole that goes in here to the low pressure side, the low pressure chamber. Make sure I didn't miss anything.
Buff's Garage saying, hello all, gotta go cram a turbo into something that's not made for. Catch y'all later. Yeah, I'll see you later, Buff. I'm cramming a turbo in a 350 Buick. I got that coming up as an upcoming video here soon.
Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy the Hardcore Tech Talk. We're going to do a lot more of this stuff as I'm allowed to bring out some more information. But as far as the DLC coded lifters, I said this last year when this happened, and I was telling Dallas about it when we were at PRI. I couldn't talk about it beforehand, but this is an absolute game changer. It's been out for a year, and just because of just restructuring and a lot of different things going on, still getting things back from the pandemic, or actually the pandemic, or whatever you want to call it, and things are just now starting to get back on track. Let's put it. So this is going to be a game changer. So I'm really focusing on it. I believe so.
It's funny that some of it, like Danny Boyd saying, I smashed that biatch last night. So,
That's awesome.
That's about the only thing I'm going to be smashing for a while.
Oh,
like button,
right?
Yeah. Okay.
I think we're all caught up on this, and on a completely separate note. So if there's any other questions, I didn't see anything else on DLC. I'm going to shift gears here on the back over to Tech Talk and whatnot beyond that. But today, I was at BB&T, and I got some race fuel.
Oh, all right. What'd you get? C16?
No, they have a new fuel out that I'm going to try. It's designed just for N2O cars that have 14-to-1 compression. It's made by the people. I'm sitting here trying to remember. I wrote it down. I can't even find my note, but it's by the people who used to run the chemists that ran VP. They went and made their own company.
The mad scientist left VP?
Well,
oh, how dare he?
Yeah, and so they started their own company now, and it's there's a few people running it here, and it runs really good, but it's 120 octane.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I've actually heard of this stuff not too long ago, and it's not made by VP, right?
No, it's not made
Okay.
by VP.
All right.
It's called N2. It's basically it's a nitrous fuel just for nitrous cars. And it's basically to control detonation and whatnot.
It's got an extra carbon molecule, make it detonate earlier.
Right.
I don't know.
So, but yeah, so I got that. So we're gonna this next week. There's a few things I'm going to do. I'm going to try to figure out for Gilbert Sled and Sled what I'm going to do as far as a block that's machined and ready to go. I have plenty here. I just need to figure out which one I'm going to use and what he's okay with, acceptable with. And then on top of that, I'm going to make a blue car in my garage go down the street under its own power. It'll be the first time since 2016.
Dude, you need to grab a bag full of cookies and just start pounding them as you're driving around. Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster, right.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do video. I'm going to try to bring that paint back on my 63 Buick.
Right?
I am. Yeah, I am. I'm going to see if I can bring it back. Now, the top has got to be repainted. Someone jumped on the roof. I got to straighten it all out. So.
Tall Garage is asking, who's talking about me? I was sneezing all day. I hope it was good. Yes, it was good. We were just talking about your 300 and the LS head and you know how you were the person who kind of started that. Actually, you're the one who figured it out. And so, yeah, there was a few people. We have a few people who bleed blue oval in our place. So they really had no idea about that. So, yeah, we were just talking about it. And I was like, yeah, you should watch his videos. So if you gained a bunch of subscribers today, it's probably why. They're like hardcore Edelbrock, blue oval guys. So
let's see. D150 saying, is there an alternative to Harlan Sharp rockers from Big Block Mopar that are decent? Dude, you know what? Andy Wood put a for sale post up that I guess he seen it. It's his buddies or something. I don't know. He's got a whole entire Big Block Mopar for $5,000.
What?
Right? Yeah. And it's like race ready, aluminum heads and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he put it up. He was put it on his Facebook page like, hey man, this is a hell of a deal. Like $5,000 is a hell of a deal for any motor.
Yeah.
You know, let alone a Big Block Mopar that'd be like, you know, a Buick up there, $5,000.
Right. Fuel last weekend, propane tanks. Oh, Tom Brown saying he got fuel for his propane tanks. He's making a joke, but
yeah.
He's
just keeping his garage warm.
Yeah. There's actually a race on Sunday. There's a race Sunday.
Yeah.
In Holly Springs. It would be nice to make it. Let's put it that way. It'd be nice if I could make it.
Let's go down there and test the tune.
That's what I'm shooting for.
Yeah. See, you need a place like here, man. They got the valley here. This is where all the YouTubers go. You show up on Test and Tune night, there's like freaking 20 YouTubers out there testing and tuning because it costs like, I think $15 or something to test and tune.
Yeah.
Yeah. Problem is when they say, all right, everybody to the lanes, it's like 900 test and tune guys and like 4 guys trying to bracket race, you know, and you just got to weed through all of them.
Yeah. I'm lucky
Dr.
enough.
Art showed up out there at the valley. I don't know if I told you this. Like, we showed up at the valley, and there's all these. There was legit race cars that was out there, you know, testing and tuning for a regular bracket weekend or whatever. And there was a dude had an S10 across from me. It ran like a 6, I think 40 off the trailer or something.
That's decent. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. And I went up there and made a pass, and the car was just like squirrelier and all get out, right? First time down on 10-inch slick. And but but it was 28 inches tall. So I went from a 30 by 9 to a 28 by 10, and it was just greasier and crap. Car ran like I don't remember, 649 or something like that. And this dude came over, started talking crap. Oh man, I should run you heads up. And then there was an altered there, and it ran a 627, I think.
Wow.
Right? And everybody was like, man, that's the fastest car here. And I'm thinking to myself, well, dang, dude, I can get mine down to like a 630 or a 629. You know, make this guy, maybe we should heads up with that dude. And then the guy across the way with his S10 kept bumping his gums, man. Hey, man, let's go make a pass. You know, me and you side by side. So I did. And I freaking cleaned this dude's clock. First, I fed him a 501 light, right? And then it ran like a 629 to his 644 or 642.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right. He came over like, man, I didn't realize that thing was that fast. And I said, I didn't know it was either that fast either. It's only ran at 627. It's the fastest pass ever. You know? He was like, man, but you were waiting on that freaking light. And I'm like, that's years of experience, bro.
Right. Yeah. That's right. When it matters, I can put it down. Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Tom Brown's asking a question. Maybe you can help him out with this one.
Does anyone make an adapter from the Holly 2-barrel to a Rochester monojet? I see them for the 2-jet, but not the mono. Oh, the 1-barrel.
I've never seen that. I don't think I've ever seen that.
I don't think there is an adapter for that.
Make one.
I tell you what, if there is anybody that has them, the place that started making adapters, Transdapt. You know,
right.
Dude, they have adapters for everything.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true.
If they don't have one, there isn't one. Oh, and Offenhauser is probably another good place to look.
I was just going to say Offenhauser.
Yeah, they make all kinds of. They got stuff. Literally, I found a catalog from like 1968. Somebody had it at No Name Nationals. That catalog for Offenhauser. Me and Ron Ward were looking at it up in the tower, and they had adapters in there for stuff I had never even seen in my life. Right, like you don't even see them at the junkyard or trip over them at the swap meet anymore. And they had adapters for them because they've been making adapters since like the 50s, probably the late 50s. So I would check with Offenhauser, and if they don't have it, go to Transdapt. They have adapters for everything. It isn't just transmissions; they have adapters for everything.
Yeah, I made my adapter for on my Slant 6 where I went to the Holly 2-barrel to my Offenhauser intake. Actually, no, to my cast iron 2-barrel. I made my own adapter, and it was really simple. I literally went down and got those cheap center punches, the kit from Harbor Freight. Put the carburetor down, marked a bunch of holes, drilled some holes, put that down, marked the holes for the butterflies, used a hole saw, cut those out, and then marked it with the gasket where the gasket should be. And it was literally that simple. Easy.
Huh.
Anywhere else? Dizzy Izzy saying the Ozark Fairgrounds, big car event, race car show. Fairway demo derby. Dude, that's one thing I do miss is that we used to have a lot of demo derbies in Elkhorn Raceway. Man, I love that place. Man, I wish that was.
Oh, well, they got demo derbies all over the Midwest, dude. And state fairs are big ones.
Yeah.
If you want to go to some serious ones, I'll haul you up there. Okay, Schweers and Gears in the Ask in Dallas is a 67 Buick 430 core engine worth $500. There's a couple available near me. I'm going to tell you one thing I know about 67. 67 430 was the big port. All right. Now, the big port 430 head, the regular big block Buick head is like 170 cc intake runner. The big port's 195. That's the one to get. But the problem is they crack. So the smart thing to do is if you find a set of them heads, 67 big port heads, because those heads themselves would sell for $500, just them heads.
Yeah.
Is take them and have them like Shane and I were talking about a few weeks ago where they cryo treat stuff. Cryo treat them heads if they aren't cracked. Cryo treat them. They'll last quite a bit longer.
Hey, while we were talking here, I had a question come through on the email here. See, this is Wannabe. we see him in there. He says, he helped me. He says, Shane, you helped me with my cam pick. Thanks. These specs are for the cam is 279, 285 duration at 50, 668 lift, 112 lobe separation angle installed on a 108. The engine is a 400 based 512 stroker. Compression is 16-1 with boarded Victor heads. Running a Ron's Flying Toilet on alcohol. The car is a 69 Cornet stripped down to 3,348 pounds with 430 gears. He doesn't say the tire on here, but I'm going to assume it's probably a 1050 car because that's basically what everybody's running now. What converter do you recommend? I enjoy the Wednesday night show on Thursday mornings. Looking forward to hearing from you. And Mike at Wannabe. Okay.
How big is the motor?
The engine is 512 cubic inches. So
it's 400 stroker then, right?
Yes, and that's my favorite engine.
I know.
Yeah.
And he says 3,300 pounds. What training?
Yeah.
727?
It is a. He doesn't say because he didn't give. He wants to know converter. And he says it's a trans brake, but he doesn't say what train it is because I would need to know the first gear, so that way I would.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Because you never know these days. It could be a freaking, JE Ultra Bell Mopar bell housing to a Turbo 400.
A glide.
Or a glide.
Yeah, on a glide. And a glide's a whole different animal.
But he says a 430 gear, so I'm assuming it's not a glide. You can pretty much eliminate a glide with a 430 gear. It needs something like 512 to get out of its own way.
Yeah.
But, so I'm assuming, I'm just going to go on a limb here and say it's probably a 727.
So it's got a 245 then first. I'm going to assume it's not a 904, with an adapter on it. So I'm going to assume a 727. I'm going to assume that it's a 245 first gear, and I'm going to assume that it's a 28-10-50 tire. If those assumptions are correct, because I'm going to answer them saying, hey, I don't have all the full story, but if all those assumptions are true, here's where I would be on this thing. Now it sounds like a lot of camshaft, but on a 512, it's really not.
It's not, yeah.
It's really not. This camshaft would be right in the 45 to 5,000 range is where I would be on this, because this thing's going to make peak torque with this camshaft right at that about 4,500 to 5,000 range, and it's going to be right in there, and it's going to be on a. It's a relatively light car, so he doesn't need.
It's 3,300 pounds.
It's relatively light for what it is, but it's still heavy, so it's going to want to flash a little higher. Plus, with the 430 gear, it's not a ton of gear, so it's going to make it flash even higher there because it's not like, say, a 530 gear, so he doesn't need a ton of converter on that. Because when he comes off the converter, he's going to release it, and then it's going to come up on the converter, and it's going to be loaded, so there's going to be a lot there. And he doesn't have any power adders, so I'd be right at about 4,500 to 5. I'm assuming he's not driving this on the street because it's got 16-1 compression on it. So,
dude, that thing, I'm thinking the converter in it. This is where in this application you don't use anything off the shelf anymore.
No, this is all custom.
Right, and this should be like you should call in and say, okay, hey, this is what I got, and if you have a dyno sheet, that's what's ideal.
Yes.
Right, but. He's right. That cam, you should be right around 45, 4,800, which is probably going to put you at an 8 or 9 inch converter on, depending on who you talk to. Mm-hmm. And then, since it's already a custom converter, I mean, you throw all the bells and whistles at it. You want the 100%. Anti-ballooning plate, you want the freaking billet front face, you want the rollerized hubs, and what is it? What's the other? The furnace brazed, all that crazy stuff. Yeah, that's what you
Torrington
get when you
bearings.
Yeah, the Torrington bearings, the one-way bearings, right? So that's the things that you get when you get that custom converter. And I had one made. I literally had one made. I put it in. I'm like, oh, what a turd, And I took it out and I put this cheapo piece of junk I had back in there that was slipping at 27%. And man, it did awesome wheelies with the 27%. And then I broke that cheapo converter. And I'm like, oh, dang. Well, I have another one. Let me put this piece of junk in here. I hate this thing. And it didn't do the big wheelies. But what I did see was how it actually worked. I took the car up and put it on a dyno. And we were just actually, because I had a dyno, or I had it tuned for when we were when I lived in Florida. And then here we are in California trying to race at 3,300 feet, you know, and it's like I was just racing at 7 feet, you know. So there's a big difference. So I had it tuned, and they got it up into high gear, and it stood on that sucker. And that's when I saw the converter magic work, right? Yeah. It literally got to like 4,700 RPM. And it just kind of lugged there at 4,700 for a long time. And then all of a sudden I see the tires start to grow. And then it really started freaking steamrolling. I mean, like really rolling. And I'm like, holy cow. And then the motor started climbing an RPM. And I thought, you know, that's perfect. You know, that converter is right. And then I took it to the quarter mile, and I literally could feel it. After I had seen it with my own eyes, I could feel it. At the 1,000-foot mark, the motor started climbing an RPM, and right as I went across the stripe, it was 6,700 RPM, which is where perfect. I told him I wanted it at.
Yep. Yeah, you know, it's funny. You were while I was talking about that, you were saying, "Oh, if it's a Glide, it's a 430. That thing's going to be a pig." In my car, I've got a 410 gear, and I've got to
spray the crap out of it.
I'm going to spray the crap out of it.
Yeah, there's a big difference when you're making 1,200 foot-pounds of torque versus whatever this guy's got.
Go!
Dude, I'm telling you, there was guys that would shake their head every time I ran, because I would spray my car off the line, right? With a big, huge, like a 2,500 stall converter with, what was I running for gear? 410 gears? Mm-hmm. I'd spray that sucker off the line at like 2,200 RPM. Oh, you're gonna blow the motor up, man! You're gonna spit rods out. That sucker made pass after pass after pass after pass. Not even it didn't even bother it.
Once I figured out my combo, the exact same thing is that it was just pass after pass after pass. It was like once I knew, okay, retard timing. Once I knew a lot of fuel, run a safe tune-up. This, all the little things, you know, get the air out of the line when you hit the button. There's a lot of little things. Once that all happened, it was just like pass after pass after pass, and it was just like, and I was the same way. I'd release the foot brake and then just hammer on that button and just.
Well, I was bracket racing with nitrous, and the guys are like, I don't know how you're doing that. Every time I put that on my car, I break out. I said, you don't go up there and dial it in without it and then go spray it.
Yeah,
you spray it the whole entire time. Oh, we're at where do you do it? The 60 foot mark? Like, no. From the go, right?
From tire crack.
Yeah. The whole time. Yeah. And then what you do is you figure out what it runs on the motor, and you figure out what it runs on the bottle, and you go up there, and depending on who you're running is what you choose, because you literally got a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde at the flip of a switch. Mm-hmm. And oh man, I did not murder that tree. Let me feed this guy some nitrous oxide, and I'll try to nip him in the lights. I'll sandbag the crap out of him, you know, and just do that cheater stuff. And it isn't cheating if you take the win and you didn't break out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so, exactly. You just back into them. That's what I learned.
Yeah. And drive that stripe.
Yeah.
That's where you really learn how to become a good bracket racer, is when you can bracket race on nitrous and be consistent at it. Mm-hmm. And you're like turning it off and on during the freaking pass. You got to figure it out.
And that's the one thing too, is that I learned how to, when I was doing the dial in, the 1060 dial in on a Pro Tree, it was kind of like remembering my street racing days. It was kind of like, oh yeah, well, I'm just barely beating this guy. That's all I'm trying to do.
You know how the tree, when it comes down on the Pro Tree, it's inconsistent on when it flashes the lights?
Yes.
Right?
There's two times.
You get your 2-stage lights, and then it flashes the 3 bulbs at one time on the Pro Tree, the 4/10 Pro Tree. It's not consistent from when the last stage bulb comes on until when it flashes. And when I had to race you, I remember I was doing it all on foot brake.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't have a trans brake or anything. So, I mean, my car had major rollout, and it also had, I didn't have a trans brake. I was leaving on the foot on a Pro Tree, and it's like, if you can cut something better than like a 640 light, you got to be some kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But what I did was I sat down and I did like 2,000 passes on that Jegs app that they used to have for the iPhone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I would time it. And then I would take the times and I'd write them all down and like 2,000 of them, and then I just average them all together, and then how long do you got to wait? And it turned out to be like 3 seconds. So I just went up there, and as soon as the last stage bulb comes on, you count 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, and then let it eat, and it would scrub all that time off, man. And it would work pretty good. And that's how I ended up racing you, and where I was actually cutting a fairly decent light in a pro tree.
Yeah, you were doing a stab at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was times I probably was going to go way early, but
Yeah.
I had to do something. I mean, I didn't have a trans brake.
Yeah, and at that time I was good for a 40 to 60.
Yeah, you were feeding me some serious lights, dude. And I still felt like bad driving around you like mid track. Like, man, too bad that Mopar's down on power. Woohoo! You know.
I remember just looking at you going, "Fuck." What's funny is I have a picture. It was one of the last pictures that one of my friend Chad Clark took. It was right because remember we were getting ready to run the third round, and there was a crash at the end of the track. Remember that?
Oh yeah, right when they called us up. You too. Oh wait, hold on.
Yeah,
it's only like 75,000 degrees in your car.
Right, and we were sitting there forever, and it was night, so there was no wind moving. It was hot, and I remember sitting there just thinking, I'm going to lose. For that hour that we were sitting there, it was terrible. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Dakota's Timeout's asking, is that an app that you tap with your finger? Yep, that is an app that you tap with your finger. You used to be able to go download it on the App Store from Jag. It was from Jags. It was a free. It was essentially a. What do they used to call that thing? The practice tree. It was a practice tree.
Yeah.
That you could download, put on your iPhone 3 or 4, and you could hammer that thing out for all day long, all you wanted to.
We actually have a real tree at Edelbrock in the
really?
marketing room. Yeah, I always sneak down there and
Yeah.
But they just have regular buttons. They don't have like a dead and bare button, so it's like literally like a button that you would get from
Radio
Napa.
Shack.
Yeah, Radio Shack. So you gotta play with the rock your finger onto it and rock your finger off.
Right.
And if you go straight
you
down,
gotta feel where the detent's at, and then you're like right there, dude.
You basically just roll it over. You just roll it over, and then you feel it, and then you just right off. Yeah, that's actually how I do it on mine. Is I have a dead and bare button, and it's got like a I think it's a 2-pound Delrin ball in there, and you can feel it, and it's a positive click, and so you just rock it onto the side, just let it off.
Oh, I don't have anything like that. I just let her eat, let off the brake, and see, I do have that 2-step on there, so I got the gas straight to the floor, right, with the brake on, and then it's holding it at the 2-step limiter, which is like, I want to say it's like 25 or 2,700. It's low because it starts pushing the car.
Yes,
and so it sounds weird, and then all I do is I keep the gas matted to the floor the whole time, so it's got to be eating the main bearings right out of it, hammering on every other cylinder, right? And then you just let off the brake, and it comes alive.
That's actually what I did for the longest time on my car.
Oh, really?
It's called the poor man's 2-step trans brake.
Oh,
it worked, and it actually was faster doing that in the court, like as far as time wise, because I could get a higher stab at the
converter.
Converter, yeah, and it would come out the hole even harder. My 60 foots were better, and that just translated to a better.
Well, when I raced you, I took that relay out that was running that thing, and I put in a solid state relay. And
Makes
it took
difference.
it did make a difference because it took like 100,000ths of a second out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Solid state relays are amazingly fast. In fact, that's what I have on my relays right now. I have 2 relays for my trans brake and for my nitro system, because you got to run them on trans brake because you got to we time them on. They're solid state relays for that reason.
Oh, because they change over fast. Yeah, instantaneously.
Yeah, almost literally.
Like, well, they used to call it speed of light. And electrons flow at the speed of light.
Yeah, exactly. So they're fast. Yeah, so that's what I have on my car right now. So like I said, a lot of things. Oh man, what do we got? Man, we only got 10 more minutes left.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyways, like I was saying at the beginning, I'm going to fly under the radar for the next week. I'm going to try to get some videos out, but I'm definitely going to make some noise with the Cookie Monster. I'm definitely going to drive it. That is going to happen. whether I go to the track or not, and go just even a naturally aspirated pass just down the track just to feel things out again, remains to be seen. But it's all there and it's all ready to go. And I got my drive shaft angles literally perfect. So
well, it's about time.
Yeah, literally perfect.
I'm just working on the stuff that I have in the bank. Stuff I was working on before everything went crazy. I'm working on the same stuff. My turbocharged 350 Buick that was Project Boat Anchor because it was a rusted pile of crap that Shane pulled out of a Connex box. It had been in there for 25 years or something.
Right.
Yeah, I got it all cleaned up. I got it put together. I'm just about ready to start fabricating hot side stuff.
Yeah.
I have the oil pan left to put on and water neck. I think that's all I have left. And then it's on to fabricating turbo header, and a Y pipe. And it's that simple.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. You've been telling me about that. We talk every morning. If you guys don't know, we talk every day about 7:00 on my way to work. We just bullshit, and it's exciting to me to hear the progression, because I can really only kind of work on my stuff on the weekends. So, Tuesdays we got Cub Scouts, and then Wednesday this, and then so I can really, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday for me to work on my junk, my rust. Hey, Dakota's timeouts actually asking a question.
Man. Well, it's not really a question. He says, I'm planning on buying aluminum heads from Speedmaster for my Pontiac. They normally go almost half off on Black Friday. Probably going to buy them bare. Mm-hmm. Don't waste a dollar. Don't spend a single dollar on Speedmaster heads. Mm-hmm. That is a Chinesium piece of garbage.
Yes.
And if you ask 2X, if he's still on here, 2Hacks can vouch for this. They had to blow his Chinesium heads apart and remachine everything, and it ended up costing just about as much as a regular cylinder head. So save your cash, buy them good Pontiac pieces. Even if you got to get the non-Butler full race piece, just get yourself some nice set of Edelbrock Perform RPMs. It's
ready to go. Usually ready to go with decent springs. And if you and we put in good springs in those heads, though. Believe me, they're decent springs. Colin's asking if she can hijack. Where was it?
Can she hijack the live for 10 seconds?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're already over 10 seconds. Your time is cut off.
Yeah, go ahead. Hijack it. I put on there. I even wrote in there. Yes, go ahead. But yeah, I would go with a really quality set of heads. At least then you'll have quality seats. The problem with those ProMasters is not necessarily the aluminum, even though that does suck. There's a few other things that suck, but it's going to be the guides in the seats that are in those heads. You're going to have to change them.
Well, here's the sad part: is like the guides in the seats won't be centered.
No, they're not centered at all.
It's like you gotta
cut them out.
You have no idea what it's like to have to remachine something that's already supposed to be finished machined.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you $2,000 worth of machine work because they had to weld up all the freaking seats and move them over 4,000 so it's centered again. That's a problem. That's a serious, expensive problem. Save your money, buy a good quality American-made piece. And you've probably heard us say it before. If you're going to go buy heads, buy the best head you can possibly buy. Even if you got to eat mac and cheese for the next 6 months, buy the best head you can buy, and then just put a short block together that can support it. Right? It doesn't have to be crazy.
Here we go. So functional histories needs less than 500 more hours to get monetized. Please, everyone, go hit the channel, play it out, and go to bed. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, go check it out.
What is it? Functional histories?
Functional histories. Let's see if I can do that while you're talking here.
Let's see. Tom Brown saying, Dallas, where are you pulling oil from the turbo from? Okay. If you watched how I did my super stock 350 Buick, I used a small block Ford oil pressure dongle adapter, whatever you want to call it. They're the same thread as the Buick, and I'm just screwing it in the block just like a small block 302 Ford, and then it's got the oil pressure sending unit in the end, and then I'm just going to drill another hole in it that's going to be for an 1/8 inch MPT, And I'm going to screw in an 1/8" MPT there with a dash 4 line on it. And I'm going to take the dash 4 right up to the turbo.
Yeah, let's see here.
But I'm pulling it right off the front of the block where the sending unit goes.
Here we go. And I believe this is the channel right there. So there you go. Hopefully that works. Yeah, looks good. I was just kind of airing through it. He's got a lot of
Clayton's Toolbox is saying the last set of Edelbrock heads I had super tight valve guides. The machinist had to hone them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've only had one set of Edelbrocks, and they were freaking top notch.
Yeah. Yeah, super tight. I mean, it could be. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you on that one. Every Edelbrock I've had I've never had an issue with them. But once again, it's just, I guess, luck of the draw. I mean, there is an aftermarket part, and things do happen.
Yeah, if Dakota, if you're trying to save some cash, here's your guy right here, Fab Race Mod Repeat. He runs Speed Oasis, which is a real deal speed shop. Give him a call, man. He can get you a freaking deal on a Pontiac head.
Right there. No, don't do it.
Aunt D says, what kind of aluminum does Edelbrock and Speedmaster use? Well, Edelbrock is not Speedmaster.
Yeah, no. They definitely are not. I want to make sure that I'm allowed to say that. I'll write that down, and I'll make sure I can say it. But I do know.
I think it says on their heads is like T30 something. I don't know. Anyway, it's a good quality American-made aluminum. That's what you need to say.
Yeah, and it's good aluminum too. It's very expensive aluminum, believe it or not.
But Speedmaster does not use that aluminum.
No,
they use the Chinesium junk.
They use like coffee cans or Coke cans that have come back.
Right. Whatever your leftover old pots and pans are made out of, that's what they're using for Speedmaster.
Oh. Dan of Functional Histories is a channel that does the Matchbox recreations of YouTube cars. He did a Hokey Goat with Irish Outlaw.
The Holy. Huh? Holy Goat. That should probably be the Holy Goat.
Oh, okay. I'll say, wow, I'm tired, but I thought that's okay.
An Irish Outlaws Wagon Artemis. So that's cool.
Yeah. So, we're down to the last 3 minutes. So, I do know that John Wilburn always goes live on Fridays. Go and check him out. I'm not sure
what I don't know if he's doing live this week. He's up in Chicago. He's up in Cope territory, shaking it down in Chi-Town.
If he's up at Cope territory, he's probably going to be doing live with Cope. That would be my guess. I don't know.
Huh.
Yeah. So
there you go. 356 aluminum.
Yep. He nailed it. If someone who says it in the chat, I knew it. But yeah, this is it right here. He is correct.
Yeah, that's probably it. And I believe that's actually how they used to sell them. They used to say that in the tagline.
Yeah, it's good. It's good aluminum, and it's a virgin aluminum. It's awesome aluminum. It's not like it's a recycled anything. And as far as Edelbrock versus Speedmaster, I really do not know Speedmaster's aluminum they're using. I really don't. We haven't done any analysis on it. I just know that the heads are just inconsistent from one to the next. I can't tell you.
I just remember seeing when they came out with blocks, and it was like, hey man, this guy just waited 4 months for a freaking Ford block from Speedmaster. Right? He was the only one he could get. And it was like the mains weren't even centered, right? Like, wow, oh my God. You're going to have to recut your crank just to fit that junk block.
Wow. Also, Colin's saying that he is going to go live from Copes.
Oh, all right. Well, perfect.
So there you go. So go to Wilburn, check him out on Friday, 7 Central. He's going to be live at Copes at CRT, sorry, Cope Racing Transmission, sorry.
So, there's a lot to be said about somebody who's not forced to make your cast iron block, somebody who's willing to go to work and enjoys their job making your cast iron block.
That's exactly right. So,
let's see. Tom Brown saying, Dallas, do you know who makes the blocks for TA Performance? I do not. I do know that Edelbrock was casting some of the heads and some of the intake manifolds. I do not know. See, during the recession in 2008, Vic Edelbrock was still running the Edelbrock Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
He put a thing out saying that they will cast and build anything you want. And a lot of these companies jumped over to Edelbrock because they had their own foundry, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the deal. So I know a lot of the parts were made there. I do not know if they still make them there. They are using. I do know for a fact I sent the intake manifold off my 350 dual plane to have the EFI bungs welded in a long time ago. This was 2009. Excuse me. To a guy who has a YouTube channel called Aaron6061, right? And he does aircraft fabrication. And that's all he does every day is weld stuff. And when I sent that to him, he said, this is the highest quality aluminum intake manifold I've ever worked on. It welded so nicely. And I'm like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's all I know about who makes them. And I'm sure that's the same place that's casting the timing covers.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we hit the 2-hour mark. Once again, if there's something we didn't get to and you want a little bit more information about it, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com. Once again, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com. And you can check out Dallas at Mr. Rodder's neighborhood. He's got some cool stuff coming on. He talked to you about the turbo build, and it's going to be awesome. I'm super stoked about that. I'm actually making me happy about that because I have a vested interest in that because I've helped with a lot of that. Oh, even though it's over the phone, I've helped a lot. So,
well, I got like 3 or 4 motors. Once they're all together, I'm taking it to the dyno back to back to back to back to back. So awesome. You'll find out what a real stage 1 455 bone stock makes horsepower and torque wise. You'll find out what a turbocharged 350 Buick bone stock bottom end with an exhaust manifold on the driver's side and a homemade log header makes on the dyno. You'll find out what the 300 makes, and then we'll just start changing heads on the 300s.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Until next week, you guys take it easy. We will be going live on Wednesday next week. So same bat time, same bat channel. Check us out. But until then, you guys have a great week. Thanks again.